Hey everybody, welcome back to CSMA Weekend Update. I'm Benjamin Parris.
Hold up.
Happy New Year, friends. 2021 is now here, and there is a lot to catch up on. Beginning on Wednesday, Cherry Creek School students will have remote learning through Friday following the 2-week winter break, and just a week from tomorrow, students will return to in-person learning. For high school students, there is a new hybrid learning model which looks like this. On Mondays, students will have a full 8-period school day from 8:20 to 3:30 with a traditional 47-minute class periods. On Tuesdays and now Thursdays, as opposed to Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Cohort A will be in person, while Cohort B is in person on Wednesdays and Fridays instead of Thursdays and Fridays. The hybrid model was changed from first semester for the following reason. First off, instructional time is now increased with 3 days of direct instruction, 1 day remotely and 2 days in person. Students now have more access to their teachers, while first semester, students had to wait 5 days before seeing their teachers in person from week to week. This new model also increases peer interaction by combining Cohort A and Cohort B virtually on Mondays. The revised model overall has more consistency for students as it minimizes the asynchronous time between lessons. A great moment for Cherry Creek School's nurses occurred on Friday as they gathered at Parker Adventist Hospital to get their COVID-19 vaccinations. The district's partnership with Centura Health led to Cherry Creek School's nurses being the first school district employees to get the vaccine in all of Colorado. All district employees will have the opportunity to get the vaccine as it becomes available to them. However, the vaccine is not required for district employees, Superintendent Dr. Scott Siegfried told the media this week. Lastly this week, CSMA amended their Season B winter sports calendar after securing a variance from the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, allowing practices to begin on January 18th, 2 weeks earlier than originally scheduled on February 1st. Let me say, I am thrilled for the Bruins to return to the ice, the pool, and the court, and I'm looking forward to sharing more moments with you as 2021 moves on. So until next time, thanks for tuning in. Have a good weekend. The push for the playoffs is on all around Cherry Creek, and we're going to hop right into basketball action from Friday night. The boys team was back at home hosting Smoky Hill, and it took almost no time for them to heat up as Miles Purchase hit 2 3-pointers on his first 2 shot attempts. Now in the closing moments of the second quarter, it's Purchase to Hammond at the buzzer and count the foul. The Bruins took a 9-point lead into the second half. To half number 2 we go. Smoky got the Cherry Creek lead all the way down to just 1 point, but Blake Purchase with a nice finish down low, followed by this 3-pointer from Chase Penry, helped take a 7-point lead into the final frame, and Cherry Creek never looked back, getting the win 84-72. Now after the game, Nate Hendon and Abby Hallam got thoughts from the man with 16 points on Friday night, the Les Schwab player of the game, Miles Purchase.
It felt good. It gave our team good momentum to carry throughout the game. So, yeah, it definitely felt good to hit 2 threes to start the game off.
Miles, I know you have a big game Tuesday. What's going through your mind through that, just game prep and everything like that?
It's a team we haven't played this season yet, so we're going to go to the drawing boards, prepare for them like we prepare for everybody else, and, just trying to come out and get the win next game.
Yeah, last question, Miles.
We head to the mat. This coming from a 4-team meet against Chatfield, Heritage, and Thunder Ridge on Saturday, and you're looking at Austin Loring, who got 2 victories yesterday over Chatfield and Heritage, and with those 2 wins, he gets to 13-1 on the season, hoping to make a push towards the state tournament. Now some final scores this week as we take a look at the 303 Smiles scoreboard. The girls basketball team went 1-2 this week with tough games against Mullen and Grandview, who are among the best teams in the state, but they finished in good fashion on Friday, beating Smoky Hill 84-28 in a game where every player on the Bruins roster got on the score sheet. And lastly this weekend, hockey played to a tie on Friday night that ended 4-4 and unfortunately dropped another one yesterday to Denver East, 3-0. We'll see you next week on CCSN, so until then, thanks for tuning in. Have a good weekend. When the unexpected struck back in March, we did not quite know what to think. Maybe just an extended spring break is what most thought, and that everything would be back to normal soon. We took everything day by day. Well, as the weather got warmer, those days turned into weeks, and eventually those weeks turned into months. And all of a sudden, the time for spring sports had come and gone, and another class of seniors had participated in their commencement and were sent off to the next chapter of their lives. We went remote and shared stories on Zoom while comparing favorite snacks. We reminisced by watching classics while in quarantine, as some student athletes took a pause just for one season, and others saw their career come to a close without a culmination. Mask became the norm. 6 feet is still the latest unit of measurement. And while we're all battling a health pandemic, some say that wasn't the only pandemic tearing through our country. We not only stood together, but we stood up for one another. We learned when it was our time to speak, and when it was better just to have open ears. Social distance, privilege, quarantine, systemic, and essential all became words of the summer, and words that are now embedded into our everyday lives because the fight is not over. When the calendar turned to August, it seemed as if the lights would be left off on Friday nights this fall, and that we would wait until spring to kick off another season. But it turns out, it was not quite what it seemed. After weeks of talk, with variances being the most popular word, the A's and Nays were tallied, and 218 schools decided it was time to lace up the cleats and get ready to return to the gridiron. The numbers were crunched and the capacities were approved, with a significantly smaller number of individuals being allowed into stadiums across the state. But how exactly did we get here? We stayed home when we were told, we masked up not only for ourselves but for our neighbors, and we cheered every evening for those who were deemed essential and stayed home from our responsibilities so they could go to theirs. Tonight, the game we all love returns. It might not be as loud. There may not be CCODs roaring out from a section of students who are asking for buses to be started and for those younger students to go home, but there will still be 120 yards of turf, 2 teams now with just 50 players aside, 1 ball, and a community ready to come together both in person and online. So after we spent months and months asking questions, one of them can be answered here tonight. When will football be back? Right now.
The Cherry Creek Sports Network, in association with the Colorado High School Activities Association, is proud to bring you the CSMA playoffs on CCSN. This afternoon, it's the 5A semifinal between the 4th-seeded Panthers of Pomona and the number 1-seeded Bruins of Cherry Creek. Now we welcome you into the broadcast booth to say hello, friends. I'm Benjamin Parris. My partner is Matthew Anderson. And Matthew, I can't believe I'm saying it. The semifinals are already here, and by next week, we're going to have ourselves a state champion.
Soon enough, we'll know who the best team in Colorado High School 5A football really is. And to me, that's an exciting prospect. Of course.
Matthew, when we look at, these two teams played in the same game on the same weekend exactly a year ago, Pomona's driving downfield at the end of that game, trying to tie the game, maybe force overtime, but one play sealed the deal for Cherry Creek as we take a look at the CCSN vault.
Yeah, well, this weekend, exactly last year, you go back in time, the score is 14-7 in favor of Cherry Creek. Then quarterback Brady Ritzman is...
Of course, following that game, last year, Cherry Creek went into Mile High Stadium, and when it was all said and done, they came out state champions. So, hey, you never know. Anyone could be the hero like John Adams was a year ago. With that, we'll move right into our CCSN game preview presented by Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers to learn more about the Pomona Panthers and the Cherry Creek Bruins.
When we compare these two teams, they are really similar in acumen and terribly different in style.
Now, both these teams are running up nice figures, top-seeded and undefeated with over 200 points scored. With 2 touchdowns tonight, Cherry Creek will have scored over 300 points on the season. Of course, Cherry Creek and Pomona are 2 of the top defenses in the state. Pomona has held their opponents only 79 points over 7 games. That's just 11.3 points per game. Cherry Creek's defense has allowed 4 touchdowns over 7 games.
Those are some really impressive figures from both teams. And the way these teams...
Now, Matthew, just from my understanding alone, it seems like when you look at just the 2 quarterbacks, it tells a lot in terms of the 2 teams because they're polar opposites.
Well, again, polar opposites in style, but similar in acumen.
By contrast, when we look at just Jack Pospisil's running stats alone, his stats are comparable to top running backs in the state.
Yeah, well, Pospisil is technically a quarterback, but he's actually the 8th-ranked rusher in the state. Biggest challenges yet, and they're going to have their hands full for sure.
But Matthew, the fact of the matter is, Cherry Creek really hasn't had a competitive game since the last time they played Pomona, which, as we mentioned, was a year ago. But in 5 semifinal games they played in since 2014, Cherry Creek's point differential is only +9 when they've had 3 wins and 2 losses in that 5-game stretch.
Yeah, Ben, it is clear that this game is going to be competitive.
Grandview's trying to go undefeated for the fifth time out of the last 8 seasons, fourth time in the last 6, as 6'7" Lauren Betts gets us started. And this is just another road to Grandview trying to go undefeated, as Robinson will send it to the top of the key for Addison O'Grady, the Iowa commit, into the paint for Lauren Betts. And a mid-range shot up from Jones was no good. Reed will get the rebound. And here we go. It's Kyle, who always plays their best against Grandview. We talked about that earlier. Far side for Kyle. Inside for Christensen. Kept it from going out of bounds, but it's going to be a turnover into the hands of Jones. We got Grandview basketball to the near side. It's Mara Hutchins. Far side for Robinson. Guarded by Gordon. Inside for Lauren Betts. Backdoor won't go. Christensen going to get that one. And so far, the Bruins have done a good job stopping Lauren Betts in the paint, Abby, as they all kind of just swarm her as soon as she gets the ball. And then, it's going to be a game of being quick because they have to quickly back out.
Ben, I think definitely when you have a girl like Lauren Betts on your team, you always have a target. And so I think the Bruins definitely this week have probably focused on how to stop her, especially in the paint.
This Kyle went up. It was no good. Tyler, question for you. We saw a ton of long possessions that lasted maybe 2 or 3 amount of the times that a shot clock would have lasted in the last game against Mullen. Do you think we're going to see a lot of those tonight?
I think so, Ben. I think whenever you're going up against good teams that can get down the floor, you're going to see longer possessions. Now, I think Grandview's offense is a little slower paced than Mullen's, and they like to work it around the perimeter and then get it into the paint to Lauren Betts. So I don't know if they'll be as fast, but I definitely think they'll be pretty long.
A minute and 40 seconds into this one. We're still scoreless as Kyle misses that one. Long pass into the paint. Shot is up, no good. Travel called on Mara Hutchins. Clint Evans with some words of encouragement as the Bruins get ready to inbound, but I didn't think we'd be scoreless so far. Abby Reed probably already had 2 3-pointers at this point in last game, but scoreless 2 minutes into the game.
I think he told him, Ben, just to calm it down a little bit, find their pace.
As Reed gets us on the board. Bruins up 2-0 first. And it's going to be a holding call against the Cherry Creek Bruins. This time, George Fitzpatrick, the junior tackle. Back him up 10 yards. So they'll now have 2nd and 20. Ball will be placed on the 28-yard line. So they'll have 2nd and 24 after the penalty is taken from the spot of the foul. So now Hammond's got his whole plethora of receiving options out there. Helm, Penry, O'Day. Purchase out there as well, lining up at receiver. And we've got some calls first, some motion up front. Let's see who it was first.
Before the snap, full start, offense number 66, 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
George Fitzpatrick going to be flagged again, this time for the false start. So 2nd and 24 is going to become 2nd and 29. Now Fitzpatrick, who has offers to schools of the likes of Ohio State and Michigan, who did not have any penalties in the regular season or the first round of the playoffs, was flagged twice for holding last week. And right there, his 2nd penalty of the game here in the state championship will back his team up to 2nd and 29 on the 33-yard line. Hammond looking deep. Chase Penry open on the left side of the end zone. It's caught! Touchdown, Bruins! 2nd and 29, no problem for the Bruins. It's a 33-yard reception for Chase Penry. The Bruins in the end zone for the 3rd time this evening.